Welcome, and thank you so much for considering co-designing on this project. It is really appreciated that you'll be giving up an hour of your precious time to be part of this. I'm Rachel Wood, the design researcher and host of the Co-Design. You'll be sure of a warm welcome whether you co-designed as part of the focus groups or whether you're joining for the interview phase. Before we get started, let's just set the scene. It'll be a relaxed, informal conversational interview on Microsoft Teams. There are no wrong answers, and everything we talk about will be completely confidential. We're here because your experiences and ideas are really important to this research. Let's go through the welcome pack. So what's this all about? We're bringing together ideas from service design and co-design to create better support services, and we can only do that with your help. The whole point of co-design is that the people who benefit from, as well as those that are involved in delivering services, are the ones best placed to shape them. You are the subject matter expert, so your voice really matters. Let's take a look at what we'll be covering. A little bit about what others have said about service co-design, so you don't have to take just my word for it. Co-design has a close relationship with service design. Further, it argues that co-design is central to service design research and practice because of the collaborative nature of services. Any service redesign must place the woman and her children at the centre of the service. Let's talk about the research itself. It's working with women who have experienced the justice system and practitioners who work with them, including designers and researchers, to help design parenting education and support. There's very little research out there on what good parenting support looks like for women in this situation, and that's exactly why your input is so valuable. We want to change that through co-design together. So let's go through some important information about how we keep everything safe and confidential. First of all, this research has been formally approved by the Ethics Committee at the Open University, so there are proper safeguards in place. Everyone taking part will get an information sheet and be asked to sign a consent form. With your permission, what you say will be transcribed or typed up using Microsoft Teams, but there won't be any video or audio recording. Your name and personal details will be removed from the data, so everything stays anonymous. If at any point you change your mind, that's completely fine. You can withdraw until your data has been made anonymous, no questions asked. Let's look at the design brief. This is the challenge we'll all be working on together. The title is Design Your Own Way. It's about creating learning journeys for parenting that are personal and meaningful. The goal is to create a flexible, lasting approach and sets of tools for parenting support, something that's shaped by real-life circumstances, guided by shared values and built to last. There are 3 pathways: designing for yourself, designing for your peers, and designing for others. As the studies progress, we'll be exploring what these could look like. The research is made up of 5 studies. In Study 1, I looked at the evidence to support this work. In Study 2, I undertook small focus groups where we looked at the design elements. In this study, Study 3, I'll be doing one-to-one interviews, which will look at design with the parenting elements to find out what you think it should be like. In Study 4, I'll be undertaking a larger scale survey to get as many views as possible of what's been done so far. And in my last study, I'll also be updating and reviewing the evidence behind the work so it's up to date as possible. Let's start with Study 1, which was a scoping review carried out in 2024. This was about looking at what research already exists on parenting programs for women who've been through the justice system. The next slide has more detail on what was found. Here's what was found. I searched through thousands of research articles, but only 5 closely matched what we were looking for, and just one of those was from the UK. That tells us there's a real gap in the evidence. From the wider research, 5 key themes stood out: trauma-informed care, empowering approaches, attachment-based methods, gender responsiveness, accessibility, and peer support. The biggest outcomes that I can see across this small group of studies were in parenting knowledge, skills, and behaviour, which is really encouraging. These are the design principles that came directly from the evidence base, from everything that were found. These principles also guide the studies, including these interviews. They're the foundation for everything we're building together, so it's worth taking a moment to look at them. Let's talk about how the interviews will work. There's nothing you need to prepare beforehand, just come as you are. With your permission, what you say will be transcribed using Microsoft Teams, but there will not be any video recording. We'll start with an icebreaker question to get things warmed up, then moved into some general questions. And finally, if you're happy to, we'll look at some early design ideas called prototypes. The last part is completely optional. Alright, let's start with the icebreaker. This is there just to help you relax before the interview and get comfortable before we dive into the bigger topics. The warm-up questions for the interviews will be: what do you think the most important skills or strengths mums bring to their families and communities are? I'll then guide you through some general questions about the topic. You won't be asked about your interest in the topics themselves. It's just about getting the conversation flowing. More importantly, there are no right or wrong answers. Optionally, if there is any time left over, I can also take you through some of the things I've been doing in the design so far. There is more about this later in this welcome pack. If you'd like the full question schedule before an interview, I can send you a summarised version of the top level questions. Also, please do get in contact if there's anything I can help you with in terms of accessing the interview by Microsoft Teams. I've applied a trauma-informed approach to the questions. If you prefer to pass on any question, please feel free to do so. No questions about this will be asked. Although it is a serious topic, I've done everything I can to ensure the questions are about strengths and to keep it light for everybody's comfort. I will send you a support pack after the interview. It's important for me to say it is of course my duty to ensure your safety, but apart from that, everything else you tell me will be kept anonymously from the interview onwards. By taking part, you are a co-designer. If you're happy to help with the prototypes, a little bit of background information. As part of the studies, I'm producing early prototypes. Designers sometimes call them prototypes. They are roughly early stage design ideas. They're definitely a long way from being finished. In fact, they are barely even started. There will be about 54 of them by the time the research is finished. The whole point is to get your honest reactions. We want to know what works, what doesn't, and what's missing. Nothing is set in stone. That's exactly why your contribution, views, and even decisions is so important. This top tips card is an early prototype in itself. As I said, there will be 54 of these cards that will be made available throughout and after research has finished. This is the first early prototype, a journey map. It shows the steps a mother might go through when accessing parenting support, from first hearing about it all the way through to completing it. This one is called a service blueprint. While the journey map shows things from the mother's point of view, the service blueprint shows what's happening behind the scenes, the systems, the processes, and the people involved in delivering support. Here are some example questions about these two. What stands out most to you about these maps? Anything surprising or missing? Where are the emotional highs and lows, and what might be behind them? Where do mothers have to work hardest to get what they need? What would need to change to make the best experience possible? And could anything here create unexpected knock-on effects? This is the third one, user stories. These follow a simple format. As a person, I want something. so I can achieve a goal. Here's 2 examples. As a woman who often feels unheard, I want staff and facilitators to actively listen and validate my views, so I feel respected as an expert in my own life. As a parenting practitioner, I would like to know how I can support everyone to feel heard and valued by the whole group, so I can give everyone the best possible outcomes. Here is the next one, opportunity mapping. This is about identifying where the best chances for positive change are. Here's a couple of examples. Setting achievable goals for yourself through top tips cards and being kind to yourself. Learning about reconnecting with your strengths. Let's go through some of the questions about the user stories and opportunity mapping. These are open-ended, so there's no single right answer, and there are definitely no wrong answers. Here are a couple of example questions. Which of these feel the most important? Do the opportunities and stories feel real to you? This is another one. I've called it Empowering Behavioural Design. This one looks at how the service could gently support positive changes in behaviour without being heavy-handed. As we look at this together, let's think about what feels empowering versus what might feel controlling or patronising. That balance is really important. An example from this might be, I will find it easiest to change if I have others around me doing the same thing and at the same time. I would like to look at next how I might parent when my child is having a tantrum. Let's go through some questions and thoughts about the empowering behavioural design prototype. This has some innovative elements and so feels very unfinished at this stage. Behavioural design is not new, but this technique is trying to emphasise how the change is self-guiding in the way that it makes a difference. What would make this design even more empowering? How could it better build on the strengths or resources that people already have? What small change would make you feel even more confident about its use? How could this feel more supportive without being pushy? And what would it look like if this truly helped mothers and children thrive in the way they want to? Your thoughts will really shape the next version. This is number 6, a systems map. It shows how different parts of the system, like the justice system, connect services, people, policies, and everything in between. Let's take a look together. Where do you see connections that work well for mums and practitioners that support them? And where do things break down or get stuck? This is the 7th one, a giga map. It's an even bigger picture view that brings together lots of different elements all in one place. To me it seems a little bit scary, as there's so much on it. It brings together all the ideas and relationships that work together for mums in this area. But it's an exciting approach that could make a difference. In some ways, it will bring together all the 54 prototypes. Here are some example questions that can be asked to support a gigamap. What are the barriers to good outcomes for mums and their children in this area? What do we know works, and how do we strengthen these? What are the top 10 things that need changing? Believe it or not, this is number 8, a persona. This is a made-up character, but she's based on real research findings. She represents common experiences and needs that came up. For example, do you agree that a mum's feelings in this area might be to feel overwhelmed if there's been a separation? What might a practitioner persona look like compared to a mum's one? How can we find out what the particular needs of a small infant are? Is the most immediate need to feel support from others, or is it something else? Here are some more general questions about personas in this area. How do we ensure that bias and stereotyping does not come into them? How do we make them feel as real as possible? This is number 9, the last one so far, a scenario storyboard. It tells a story about how someone might experience a service from start to finish. This helps us see in sequences how things might go. They also, in this case, help people to visualise strengths and opportunities of the design. They can be really fun to do, particularly if you like to draw. Here are some example questions that can help us make storyboards feel real. How well does this storyboard reflect real life? Does the scenario feel real or relevant? What parts feel the most accurate? Is there anything missing from the experience? What things might go wrong in this scenario? And what would you change? Let's think together as co-designers about what the ideal version of this experience would look like. We're coming to the end of the welcome pack now, so let's talk about what happened after the interviews. As a thank you for being part of this, the prototypes and your general answers will be used to make decisions about the direction of the designs. You'll get early access to the updated versions before anyone else. These materials will be shared under a Creative Commons license, which means they can be used freely for learning and non-profit purposes. Thank you so much for everything you shared today. It really will make a difference. If you'd like to stay connected with this research, here are some quick read codes for some of my blogs related to the research. I hope you find them interesting. There will of course be more to come. Here are the contact details if you'd like to get in touch after today. Whether it's a question, a thought that comes to you later, or just to say hello, the e-door is always open. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, Service Co-Design Superhero. Making your contribution will help lived and practitioner experience. What you shared today will directly shape how this support is designed. I wish you all the very best and hope to see you again soon. Take care.